Welcome to another episode of the Apparel Entrepreneurship Podcast. Today we have an amazing guest. Today we have Pamela with us. She's going to introduce herself briefly. But we connected on LinkedIn, like what
hmm
we've done with so many other entrepreneurs, and we've connected on common values. We have sustainability as a common value,
Yay.
durability, longevity, and you're an expert in modular design, sustainability, and also you are an entrepreneur. You've written a book, and we're going to dive all into that, and we're going to hear about your amazing journey, and of course about the book. But first
Okay.
of all, please introduce yourself. Tell us what you do so we can get to know you better.
Hi, I'm Pamela James. I'm founder and CEO of Paloma St. James. It's a luxury modular fashion brand, and it's dedicated to providing sustainable solutions. I'm also an author, like you said, and my book is The Guide to Modular Luxury Fashion. And the book was written as a way to inspire a new way of thinking about clothing and how we dress and what we wear.
And of course, fashion is so diverse, but I want to learn how come you started in fashion? What was when did you begin? Why did you do it? What was the calling, if it was any? What was your interest in fashion?
It's interesting. I'll start by saying that I've always wanted to be in fashion, but I grew up at a time when life was very traditional, so it was kind of teacher, preacher, lawyer, doctor. That was your path. And but my inspiration was this. I'll never forget. It was embroidered silk. It's so beautiful. It belonged to my mother. It was this Adrian Vettadini, and that was kind of synonymous to like Austin and YSL at the time. And it was a two-piece floral suit, and I wanted some heirloom pants. And I don't know why I was crazy enough, but I actually cut this lady's pants and sewed them. And it's so funny because I did so much of that and I never got in trouble. She never said anything to me. Maybe she had enough. But that was when I knew that I loved fashion. I knew that I wanted to work with my hands. That was very clear. That's when I'm most when my hands and my brain are in sync and creating something new, different, and innovative is when I'm happiest. So I was very clear on that early on.
In terms of starting your career, where did that start?
Well, it's interesting because I was crazy enough to marry someone when I was 21 years old, right? Um, and still married to him, my best friend.
Fantastic.
So
It's kind of our
we,
story. We met at 21, so I hear you
yes,
still
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
right. So it's interesting because I had this really crazy thing that I would help him. You put him through dental school. Then as soon as he got through dental school, then I would, raise the kids for a couple of years, and I would start doing what I wanted to do. So that's kind of how it started. So just having the freedom outside of my parents, and I already had a degree from the University of Georgia, so that was solid. So I ended up just deciding that, okay, these kids are in school now. What do I want to do as an adult? And I took a couple of personality tests and I kept coming back to fashion. I didn't want to do fashion. I wanted it to be law or something, sexy, but not fashion. So ended up going to taking a ton of YouTube University classes and landed at a certificate a certificate that Parsons had. And once I did that, I took the long route, to be honest with you. I went to an artist type colony to sit down to see my process, like what would be my process. And then I
hmm
went to more of a retail space, and that's kind of where I launched in terms of business.
You are an entrepreneur,
Yep.
uh, having your own business. Can you talk a little bit on how that journey started? How far
Mhm.
back? Why? What was the reason you got into that?
Well, I've always been an entrepreneur, to be honest with you. I remember wanting to go to Sanibel Captiva, which is now it's well known, but in college it wasn't. So I went to the Mac Lab. That was what we had then. You went to the Mac Lab. I printed up some little cards. I made some earrings out of plastic. I don't know why. I still have lungs, but I made earrings out of plastic, sold them all throughout the city, and paid for my trip to to Anna Maria, to that wasn't Anna Maria, that was Sanibel Captiva. So I've always had that spirit. And then with my second business was a dental business. I ran a couple of dental businesses for my husband. So it was natural for me to move in that space. I really like the idea of, I hope nobody's vegan, but I like the idea of eating what I hunt. You know what I mean? I love that. I get a thrill out of it. And it's just where it's who I am. It's a fiber of me.
So after this Parsons certificate, how long did you set up your brand right away, or did you
Mhm.
just right into it?
Yeah, I did because you know, sometimes I have this beautiful, uncanny gift of being dumb enough to think I can do whatever's written. Like when you sent me instructions, I mean, I really do. You sent me instructions. I made sure I'm on Google Chrome. I made sure I downloaded the app. I made sure I recorded. I read, hold on for a couple of minutes, let it upload. So I'm a very literal person. And I just, I I know I can do it. Not I think I can do it. I know that I can do, whatever I'm gifted to do. Like I'll never
Yeah,
be
and
a
I think
doctor.
yeah, I think that's the right attitude. If you have the right attitude, you'll figure things out along the way. You don't have all the answers
Hmm.
from you start out, but once you
Hmm.
get into it, I mean, that's about running your apparel brand. It's all
Hmm.
constantly challenges and problems that you have to
Yes.
solve, and you never know what's going to show up. So if you
Hmm.
have that kind of mentality, that's the way forward.
Hmm.
And your brand, Paloma St. James, it's a luxury modular clothing brand. Can you first of all, of course, tell us what that means, and then talk about where the idea for that concept specifically, where that came from?
Okay. Well, let's just break it down. A lot of things in life are modular. We have modular screwdrivers, we have modular sofas, we have modular homes. Why not modular clothing? When I start thinking about sustainability, why not have clothing that moves as smoothly as a sofa? That fits together. You don't know that it fits together. So the whole idea of modularity really grew out of several things. But I'll start with this one. It grew out of sustainability. How can my brand be more sustainable? And what does sustainable mean to me? And for me, it means doing more with less. It's as
Yes.
simple as that. There's so many different iterations of it, but I knew for me, it was doing more with less. And I just found it very challenging. Could I take this blazer? And could I make it, a coat dress? Can I make it, a vest coat? Can I, make it, almost an evening piece? So I love the idea of that challenge. Now, when I went into it, I thought, oh, this is easy. You just, make it happen. But I'll tell you, it took me 3 years to perfect the pieces.
Wow, how many pieces do you have in the collection right now? Like
Mhm.
how do you alter and add and move on
Mhm.
from concept to concept? What does that look like for you?
Well, I'll send you a video so that you get an idea. And I really wish I'd sent it before. But I have 8 core pieces because when you think of a body, there's only 2 arms and 2 legs, right? Like that is it. So when you look at patterns, patterns are pretty much 8 pieces. And there's a one, two, three, four, five. I won't explain, but there's pretty much 8 pieces to any pattern that you're going to have. So the idea of having, well, first of all, I love the number 8 because it means new beginnings. And, with the 8 core pieces, I can move and make anything out of those, because pretty much, I mean, just like if you look at either one of your shirts, I mean, you've got a right breast, a left breast, a right back, a left back, a right bottom, a left bottom, front, a right bottom, left bottom. So with that, that's the foundation of sewing. That's it. So that's why I have the 8 core pieces, is because it moves and it's just fluid. It's even gender fluid. Some of the jackets can be worn by men or women. You can put leather on the arms. You can take the arms off. You can make it a full length jacket that's really cool. You can do huge sleeve. So there's just, I wanted to make sure that it was sustainable, fashionable, and very well done.
It all makes sense because fast fashion, they throw out thousands of pieces, and most of them end up in landfill. We only recycle 1% of all materials. So it's an extremely big problem that we're facing and that we know the
Mhm,
fashion industry has. And I love that concept because first of all, it makes sense from a usability perspective, but also
mhm,
from, again, if you buy something qualitative, keep it and make sure that it's versatile so you can use it to many events. You can use it in
mhm.
with many scenarios. But I'm thinking for the concept and when you came up with the products, how did you come up with the exact products that you actually have? Did you talk to customers before, or did you have
Mhm.
yourself as an example? Tell us a bit about the process of actually reaching those core pieces that you actually
Mhm.
have today.
Well, I did something really interesting. I made a complete deck and I shopped the deck. And I didn't shop it for investors, or I shopped it for consumers. And
Mm.
I asked for, I opened up the Google deck and I left the comments sections open. So that way, I didn't just get the people that were in my sphere, in my circle. I moved outside of my circle and I could send it all over the world. So that was the cool thing about not having this. So I did a complete presentation of like, this is what I want for the future. This is how I see the future. This is, what do you think? Would you purchase it? And if you notice on LinkedIn, I still do surveys. Like I'm constantly doing surveys. Like, what does the consumer want? You know,
So you have these 8 core pieces. How do you keep it relevant? Do you exchange one piece for a new version, or you add
Mhm.
versions to the collection? How do you work? Do you always keep it to these 8 pieces?
Well, no, see, what happens, it's 8 core pieces. So when we have a new season, you do your research. You still have to go to WGS and you got to know what the consumers want, because that's part of the whole creative process is understanding because you're playing to an audience, right? And you
Yeah.
want them to want what you have. So you go to WGS and you go to WWD, you figure out what are the colors of the year and what colors are relevant, what colors are hot, and then you add small pieces so that people are still fashion forward. So though you have these 8 core pieces, you don't have a capsule collection. You actually have a lapel that you can add in that may work with your skin tone. You have arms that you add in. So you have all these different add-ins. But the coolest add-in that I love so far, well, my favorite add-in is I also have an extension piece. So once you actually buy into the concept, if you gain a couple of pounds, we've got these little 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch extension pieces that you can zip in, which I absolutely think is revolutionary, because that doesn't mean you're not running to the store to grab another piece. So you don't buy another piece because it's temporary. So that is, and I think just growing up sustainable, it's part of my DNA for me to actually think about, okay, how can I use this? But let me also say this, modularity is not just about my pieces. So YSL actually started with modular dressing for women. And what it simply means is taking a jacket, like a blazer, and wearing it with jeans, and wearing it to a baby christening with slacks, and wearing it as a woman with a cute pair of heels and some shorts. So modularity really is about taking what you have and making sure that when you buy that piece, you're looking at it and, do I have 3, 4, 5 places that I would like to wear this piece?
What I love with this concept is that it also, of course, if we just take sustainability aside,
Hmm.
because of the concept just makes sense, but
Yes,
also it seems, and if you're looking at it, it is fun. It's
yes.
putting fun back into dressing, experimenting, trying things out. you letting it grow with you, evolve
Yes.
with you. There's just so many levels you could take this. And all of a sudden, as a customer and as a wearer, it's like you will never get tired of when you look in your wardrobe, like, this is boring, this is all, because you can always tweak it up and evolve
Yes.
it and mix it and just have fun with it. So
Hmm.
just also from a pure fun aspect, it just sounds brilliant. But I
Yes.
want to go back to the thing you said in terms of the communicating with your future customers on the Google Doc, and you getting and having a true conversation and literally listening. Of
Yes.
course, many brands try to social listen now, but they don't actually succeed that much
Yes.
because it's so hard on social media. But right now, for you to actually just have a conversation and
Hmm.
literally talk and ask your customers for what they want,
Hmm.
that's really brilliant.
Hmm.
So first of all, did you hear someone else doing it, or was it a
Hmm.
pure instinct that this just makes sense? I
Hmm.
just need to have a conversation with my ladies, and they will give me the answer, and I'm gonna give them what they need. Like, where did that come from? How did that start? Talk to us
Well,
about that.
well, you know what? It started because I had to figure out, okay, this is an interesting concept. I have not seen it. You
Yeah,
know, I'm doing this research on it. You know, is this viable? You know what I mean? That was
yeah,
really what it was about. Is this, can I sell this? Are people going to buy into this? So it was really more about, is it a viable concept? That was really that I needed to hear and listen. Like, if it's well done, will you purchase it? So it really was a business decision.
did you have to do a lot of explaining and education for people to understand the concept, or were people just like, this is freaking genius, I'm on, where can I get this? Like, how much? Because
Hmm.
with certain things, you have to, people are not aware of the concepts, so you have to do a lot of
Hmm.
education, a lot of explanation, a lot of before they actually
Hmm.
get it. How was it for you?
Well, it's interesting because 90% of the people did not understand the concept. So I'm so hyped that you get it. You haven't seen it, but you get it. So 90% of people just had no clue about the concept. The 10% that did completely bought in. The cool thing is that I was at Premier Vision Paris, because
Mm,
that's my favorite, Premier Vision ship.
yeah.
And one of the words for 2025 will be modular. So
Ah,
I knew that in
yeah.
2023. So I
Mm,
knew that I was a little bit ahead of the curve, but I needed to keep pushing, keep educating. So we have, I think we're at a brick wall now. So I'll say first it was 90% had no clue what was going on, what I was talking about. Now I'm at 50-50. And in a way it's good because it gives me a market advantage. It's
yeah,
nice to be able to land as a true thought leader in this space and not just,
yeah.
just saying it. So now it's about 50-50, and it's moving closer to, like, I'm the type of opportunities. It's interesting. I'm getting museum opportunities. Like, people want me to do an
Yes.
exhibit on, modular movable fashion. So
Yes.
yeah, so I have one special collections at University of Georgia that I'll be installing in January, and I'm in talks with a couple of other places. But that's kind of been the thing. It's almost like, we're stuck with sustainability. Honestly, we talked about this. Um, there was a disconnect because all of the work is going on in the global south, all the technology is going on in US, Europe, and what's happening is that there is a disconnect between the people who actually handle the fibers, work with them day to day, and the people who are coming up with them. So when things are not working well, it's because the people who handle it, who know the hand of fabric, who are very familiar
Yeah.
with thread counting, they're not the people who are working on the actual technology. So,
I'm just thinking, if most people don't really get the concept, how did you work to get it out there, to get your customers to understand the concept? Do you work a lot with education, or what? How do you do?
Klaus, still working on it. Still working on it. But
Here is the picture. This is how you combine the stuff.
Yeah.
well, what's happening, I'm going to send you a video so you have an idea as well. So I figured out that videos work best for this
Yeah.
concept. That's for sure. And I think anytime you are moving in a way that's not traditional, and it was the weirdest question I had, and I thought, oh my gosh, I had a senior VP of Calvin Klein ask me, okay, so what is modular? And then and I thought, oh crap, I'm in trouble. You're the senior VP of Calvin Klein for 30 years. But what was interesting is that, I showed him the video and he went, okay, that's the real deal. He says, we've been working on this. We've tried to do this for back and forth for a long time. He said, that's the real deal. So it was neat to get that affirmation. But yes, that is always going to be, well, that's going to be an issue. But think about it. Who was Tesla? Will Google stay around? So we
Yeah.
haven't changed clothing in 100 years. We really have not. So it's just time for a change. You know what I'm saying? Why not modular? Why not now?
And also, I'm thinking different parts of the world dress differently because it's a
Yes.
cultural thing. Like Americans, they buy outfits, you buy
Hmm.
kits, literally. Whilst
Yeah.
in Europe, we switch it up with vintage, with what we got from our grandma, with what we bought from H&M, a piece from Zara,
Hmm.
something that I bought luxury from Paris, whatever.
Right.
Everybody's kind of like mixing it up. So we dress and buy differently. And
Right.
also now the younger generation, like a daughter, she's only wants to shop on secondhand platforms
Yes.
because they gamify it and it's fun and she does it together with her buddies and she so it's like
Hmm.
like a gamified thing. And so we
Hmm.
buy differently now and we dress differently as well. I'm thinking, how are you addressing that? Because it is different.
Hmm.
Like we buy different.
Yes.
uh
Well, and that's why it's time for modular because we buy different. So I
yes.
do anticipate because the truth is that we live in the fourth dimension now. We don't live in a three-dimensional world.
Mm,
This computer, I mean, you're in Sweden, I'm in the US. This is the fourth dimension. I mean, we are living somewhere different. We're having this really intense. And what's interesting is that it really is the fourth dimension because I feel your energy. I know you feel my energy. You know what I mean? Like it's different. So I do anticipate modularity moving into gamification because I think it's cool to be able to have sleeves and to be able to have jackets. But what I think is different about modular fashion is that I can give you a simple European jacket, clean, simple, navy blue, beautiful, and you can wear it. Your daughter can put on some, these kids are biker shorts right now, some biker shorts, unzip this, take out the collar, and she can wear it. So, what we're really saying when we talk about vintage clothing and the way people are dressing now, you know, people understand heritage and the importance of it.
mhm.
So, you know, automatically, when I give you a piece, you purchase a piece, you've moved into heirloom, into vintage, into, heritage because your daughter or your son because, some of the jackets are gender fluid, can be very, very masculine and, or whatever you want. But I think that's where it's different from other clothing is that it is the future. It is very modern. It is, like you said, she wants to shop secondhand because it's different. It's something new. So I think it is, I don't think it's going to be a niche market. I think the beauty of modularity, it's just like a modular sofa. The beauty of it is that it does everything, right? Like that's where you find the practicality in it. And you can, to have the same sofa, you can split it apart, you can put it back together. And I think that's where modular fashion comes in terms of, I think it is the future for now.
I'm thinking in terms of when in the beginning when we talked about what the concept means, my mind goes, of course, always to quality, longevity,
Yes.
which if we're going down into the nitty gritty a bit of a tactics, because you had to attack this problem on a
Yes,
material level, correct?
yes.
In terms of finding durable quality materials that are going to last, they're not going to rip, they're not going to be flimsy, they're not going to, So what would you, or how did you attack this in the beginning
Mhm.
when you were looking at materials and when you were looking at the construction of these pieces in terms of longevity and quality?
Well, I was so attached to lyocell, particularly a tensile lyocell. Loved it because I love the closed loop system. I felt like, we weren't hurting the environment. It's part natural, it's part chemical. But if you've seen in the past couple of years, it's everybody's moving away from it because it just does not wash well. It does not wear well. So that was really my search. Yeah, I had the concept, I had the idea, but the search was what's the proper material. And believe it or not, I on my last ditch effort, I was like, I'm gonna go to Vietnam. I'm not leaving until I get everything. And if I don't do it, I'm done. I mean, I just gotten to that point where it's like I am done. If this does not happen now, I'm done.
So what was your biggest challenge in finding the right materials for
Yes,
your
yes, yes,
product
yes.
and for the
Well,
concept?
Well, I think I was looking in all the wrong places. So I wanted something that had this label on it that was sustainable from a certain area. That's what I was looking for. I was also looking at large companies. In Vietnam, stumbled across a very small silk making company, silk, linen, cotton, family business, 3 generations, ethically sourced. And I really just stumbled across this particular fabric mill. And it was everything that I needed it to be. And I really stumbled on it. But what I really found out about the properties of silk is that when you get a really good silk that's made very thoughtfully and mindfully, you can wash it. The stains come out easily. It's not the delicate pieces that we think that they are. We have made them
Yeah.
delicate because we make the quality poorly now. So I just found amazing silk, amazing linen, amazing cotton. I'll have to send you the videos. I have pictures of the factory, and it was really an accidental stumbling because I was really textbook. I was trying to find the big companies that had all the right certifications that did things a certain way. So they said, but I went and I saw for my own eyes, this is really truly sustainable. Like not only are the fabrics sustainable, also the stakeholders and the lives that are involved. And that's something that we forget in sustainability. We think, okay, I have a sustainable t-shirt, I made it, and you paid $5 for it. So are the lives that
Yeah.
made that t-shirt, is that sustainable? And I think, no, it's not.
Most probably not for that price.
No.
No. Let's from material, let's go into the manufacturing and the production, because we've been working with hundreds of brands, startups, everything from tiny, like one person ops to full blown up team. And we know the intricacies of finding the right factory and partnering up with the right partners. Sometimes it can take years. Sometimes you just land on the right one from the get-go. How was it for you on finding the right manufacturer? Tell us about that experience and yeah, your problems and your how you solved that.
Okay, so that has been a journey. Let me say that first. So when I did I think that the thing that every business should do, particularly a small business, you should do your SWOTs and your toes. You should know your opportunity strengths, your opportunity weaknesses, so that going in, it's just going in with your eyes wide open. So I knew that I had two challenges here. I knew I had a challenge with the fabric. I knew I didn't know the manufacturing was going to be an issue. So I traveled through all of the US, through India, Dubai, and finally went online and started having this conversation with this random guy who he sells these like $20 sheets for manufacturing in Ho Chi Minh City, just as hokey as you can be. So he sends me the list of 20. I go look up, and everybody who has like this whole white glove look, I'm like, I know that game. X, no, everybody who was making a lot of things with polyester, it's like, I don't want to get caught in the crosshairs of that. No. So I texted back, or I said, listen, you've not given me anything. I'm a small business, I'm sustainable, and I need a certain manufacturer. So he gave me a possibility. And by this time, I was so frustrated. I already booked my trip to Vietnam. I'm not coming back. Like, I just don't care. At this point, I'm not coming back until it's done. It's either gonna get done, or I'm just, I'm done with it. So I have my ticket. My husband didn't even know this. I go to Vietnam by myself, not speaking but 2 words of Vietnamese, um, and without a real manufacturer. He has no clue. So I'm going in like I'm riding dirty at this point. I mean, it's bad. So I get there, I get to my place, and I spend every day in 100-degree heat moving
Yeah.
from factory to factory to factory to factory. And he'd given me this name of a factory, and I thought, I'll go ahead, and I talked to her a little bit, and she was just kind of warm. She wasn't warm on the idea. She and I met in person, and it was just kismet. I mean, I knew I wanted
It's
to
cool.
work with her. She wanted to work with me, and she's actually a designer. So one of the things that we're working on right now is, I've got my pieces, and she just understood what I was doing. She understood my concept. You know, I stayed at the factory all day, every day to finish explaining it out. But she and I are actually going to, because she has a factory, and there's a lot of street food in Vietnam. Well, there's a lot of street food because once the women either get divorced or their husband's side, there's no social support. So those are actually women who are supporting themselves. So about a decade ago, she started training these women. And when I tell you,
Mm,
they are amazing at what they do. So with that, because I have a heart for women in
that's
India,
fantastic.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah. So that's how I found her, and she's amazing. She actually has a background in design and makes all the difference in the world. She's not just a dressmaker, a pattern maker. She understood what I needed to see, and I mean that's how I found her. And yes,
And
it has
you're
been
still
difficult.
working together to this day?
Yes. Well, the other thing that I do believe in diversifying. So I've got some things that are going to come from the U.S. I'll be in India in November because, most
All
of
right.
the embroidery and those things come from India. So I'll be, I've got stuff that's coming from India, coming from
Yeah.
Vietnam, and coming from the U.S.
That sounds like and it's always like that. That's why we always say, and we preach all the time, you have to
Hmm.
go meet your manufacturers.
Yes,
Yes, you can send emails, yes, you can call, but it's not the same thing. So always go visit them. You can see on the floor what it looks like. You can get
yes,
the vibe with the people. If you have
yes,
common grounds, if
yes,
you're driving business on the same core values, because that's
yes,
really important.
Yeah, it sounds like you've been doing this with all your manufacturers, going there before you even start working with them, and
yes,
that's just fantastic because, as you said, you see with your own eyes. They
yes,
can paint you any picture of what they're doing, but until you're there, you don't see how things are done. Is it clean? How are they treating the staff? All
Yeah.
these things. You
yes.
need to be there, and also the relationship. Obviously, are you working with this?
Hmm.
Can they communicate in your way, so it
Right.
will be working? So
Yes.
that just fantastic.
Hmm.
And let's talk. So you found your fabric, you found your manufacturer. Talk
Hmm.
to us a little bit about when you actually went to market. What was the strategy? Because you mentioned the Google Doc sheet, which was phenomenal. So you already had clients, potential clients for your concept that actually
Hmm.
understood it. How did you make it fly? How did you make your business fly?
Okay, so that's that's the plot twist. I don't launch until Fashion Week of February. I already have a line that's modular in a sense that you can wear it different ways, but the true modular line doesn't launch until February.
All
So,
right.
yes, so that line where the zippers are in and out, all of
Yeah.
those things actually launch in February.
So will you sell D2C or go with retailers? How will you, what channels
Well,
will you use?
Well, I've always had a really interesting business model. So I'll say D2C, but I do a hybrid model. So what I do is I do D2C. I'm going to say this, and of course it's not going to happen. I tend to stay away from larger retailers. I've found success working with boutique hotels who do a lot of business. I've found success working um, pop-ups with them. So that's kind of been my success model, and that's worked really well for me. So I'll do more D2C. I have art installations. So, I've always done things a
Mm.
little different than normal. So, one of the things that I realized is that since people want these art installations, that's something that, I didn't think of. Somebody actually asked me to install. So I'll be doing that around the country and hopefully in Sweden, hopefully in Paris. So my business model has always been a little different. So I hope to stick to that same model of D2C, pop-ups, small boutique hotels and adding in gallery.
I think this is such an incredible take and strategy because fashion and art is and culture in general is
Yes,
always been coexisting and interconnected.
yes.
And we see brands like Acne from Sweden, we see brands
Hmm.
like Jacquemus, and I mean they are super art focused, and this is also one of their successes because they
Hmm.
interconnected, they intertwine it into their business. Some pieces you don't know if it's art or if it's a work, you have no idea, but also on the collaborations that they have with
Hmm.
artists and creators in general, it is of that world. So I'm thinking for you, have you already reached out to any
Hmm.
creators, or do you know that you're going to do this in the future? How far up are you into making this happen? Because I think it's a phenomenal
Yes.
strategy.
So, like I said, I already have just the one art exhibit, and it wasn't my idea. So I'm actually starting to look around at collaborations. I've got two collaborations that will be really fun,
Nice.
if it works out. So I've got two collaborations that I'm working on now, and if they work out, it'll be amazing. But so I'm kind of at the beginning of that because it wasn't my original idea, but I thought when they asked me to do it, I thought, I like
That's
that.
smart.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Will you be able, will people that go to the show then be able to order products directly
Yes.
or even buy them at the event, or how
Hmm.
are you thinking?
Um,
What's the
Order, that's the thing, because what
Yeah.
I'll have will be art. So what we've been working on, since somebody asked us about this one exhibit, we've been working on these open shadow boxes so you can actually wear the jacket, and then with the artist you collaborate and you do whatever sleeves or whatever bottom. So the back of the fabric will be in the artist's actual artwork, and you can have
Very cool.
wearable art. So, if you've got that home and Miami or wherever, you actually can hang it up, and this is your art piece, and you can pull it and wear it. So again, when somebody asks us about doing it, we start thinking, we should do custom, we should do, and that clientele, that's more of a custom world anyway, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I'm thinking my mind goes directly to kimonos, because that's how
Yes,
when you find a vintage kimono, that's how you put it. You put up the wall almost like
yes,
an art piece,
yes.
just beautiful. But also you can take it down and wear it if you want to. So it's
Hmm.
again the modularity and the versatility. I love that. Let's talk about your book.
Yeah.
Yes. Ta-da!
So for everyone just on audio, what's the name of it?
Oh, it is The Guide to Luxury Modular Fashion. And it's
Perfect.
also so I'm so thrilled about it, and I love the artwork. Shout out to my artist. Her name is Ashi Mehta. She's an amazing girl. She's in school at SCAD. She did a great job with the artwork. I'm so proud of this book, to be honest with you. You can probably tell, I'm sure.
Of course, and we know because we wrote a book a couple of years ago, Apparel
Yes.
Entrepreneurship. I mean, how to start a clothing brand. We know it takes so much time and so much frustrations and love and passion and all the emotions combined
Yes,
until the project is birthed. So we
yes.
know what dedication it takes to actually birth the project like this. And
Hmm.
of course, it's a genius way going back into art, going back into, so you have a book, you also have a collection. It kind of merges together. Talk about the idea for the book. Why now? Why that topic? Yeah, go
Okay.
into all the
Okay.
details.
Okay. So I'm going to give you, I'm going to tell you the family version and then I'm going to give you the friends version. Okay. So,
Yeah.
and I have to think about whether or not you're going to be able to publish this. So I had this mentor. And, just because I don't burn bridges, I mean, he's still around. I had this mentor who worked for Chanel and Armani. And he was always telling me, push the limits. He's from Lyon. So, his dad was a diplomat. He's traveled around. He lives in the US now. He's retired. So I would go out to his place and I would learn, because, in designing, I like to know everything that I'm doing. Like if I ask you to do it, then I need to be able to know whether or not you're doing it properly. So I would always go out to him too, and he'd push me, particularly in this modular idea. He says, he was like, first he said he called me one day. And this is how he became my mentor. I would hang around him because he's just, a really fascinating old man. Has lived a fascinating life. So I'd go out and hang out with him. He called me one day. He says, you know what you're doing? He said, I've thought about it. I thought about it. I thought about it. He said, first I thought, not a big deal. He says, the more I'm with you, he says, what you're doing is brilliant. And he said, I'd like for you to come in and let's just talk about it. So I start going into him and he wanted a piece of the business. I was like, not a piece of the business, can't do that. But what I can do is, if you do certain things, I can make you a percentage revenue partner. So he was supposed to do certain things, but he kept pushing me. So he kept using all this beautiful French language, but no, you need to dig deep. You need to dig deeper. Me, literal person, go get a big old shovel and start digging deeper, into the subject matter. And so what I ended up with is articles and research on colors and how it plays into modularity and what you reach for, sustainability. All of this information I looked up one day and I thought, people keep asking me what is luxury modular fashion. Why don't I tell them in a book? So, I ended up writing the book just because anytime you do something new, something different, there has to be a manual, and the manual isn't just about my concept. It's about modularity in general. It's about how to reach for the right clothing, what you should look for, why you should buy it. So that's a long story. Um, and he ended up being like just full of BS and really wanted all of I don't deal with custom clients typically. He wanted all my custom clients, so he kind of strung me along to get those because that's a different level. I love my retail clients. I'll do custom and I have somebody else who does it with me, but I prefer D2C without custom. So yeah, so he BS me long enough for me to have enough information to write a book. So that is the friends version. The family version, I mean, that's a friends version. I mean, the family version. The friends version is, I dug deep, long, and hard, and didn't find a lot of information on modular clothing, and thought if I'm putting these things out into the earth, then I need to make sure that there is a decent how-to manual. So that's how I wrote the book, and that kind of inspired me to start writing the book. And once I got into it, you know how it goes. You just get crazy deep and you're just like, oh no, I need this. Like I realized, oh no, I need a packing list. Oh
Yeah.
no, I need this. So yeah, it was really
Yeah,
cool. It
and
was a cool
also, no,
concept.
it's after we have published our book, we have several new ideas, and we talk about it all the time. We should make a new version. We need to add this. We should add this
Yes.
to the book. We didn't get that in.
We already have a second. We have loads of material for a second book, and we have a third one that I'm like, really, we need to. So we totally know what you're talking
But
about.
also when you have all this information and you have the idea, you know what you want to write. What I found challenging is just putting it all together in a structured way. How big of a
Yes.
challenge was that for you you have this information, you know, you have read everything, but now you actually need to explain it in a structured, simple way for people to get it. Was that a big challenge for you?
Well, you know what? So I had a cheat. I have an undergraduate degree in literature.
Oh
So
yeah.
I
Oh yeah. I didn't.
so I've had to write really long-term papers. So I knew the first thing to do is don't think of it as a book, think of it as an article. So the first thing I did was I wrote my titles. I knew the things I needed to address. Now I had to add some, but the first thing I did was wrote the title of each chapter. Like, this is what I need to address. And then at that point, you start filling in the blank. And
Yeah.
that list will grow. But what it does, it helps you to take small bites and not big chunks. Like, I didn't think of it as a book. You know, whenever it got to be too much, I thought, ooh, I got to write this article. Ooh, I got to write this paper. So I think when you do that, you cover what you need to cover, and it gives you a little bit more structure, you know, just to write those chapters first. Because the thing is that what we write isn't fiction. So, you know what I mean? Our we still develop, you know, and there are parts that are, you know, going to be, you know, you're going to climax on some part of these books in terms of, you know, like for me, my climax in my book are the places with color. You know, that's where you kind of do that. But because of what we're writing kind of how-to material, we're writing that type, you know, I think it's safe to know what you want to get to the consumer or the audience and just do those titles first. So that made it easier for me.
I can imagine.
But I love
Mhm.
that it's a manual, but also it's a beautiful book.
Yes.
Which, and you also have a framework. Talk to us about the framework.
And it's modular. You can both sides. So
Of course.
you know, I
We can talk about the pearl later. I really want to talk about the pearl.
yes, I love the pearl. Okay, so you know, when I start thinking about and the other thing is that every time I looked at anything where people were talking fashion, it was always fashion speak. So if I'm not into fashion, you know, what am I going to do? Like, how does this apply to me? So what I decided to do in terms of framework, so I have this framework, and I'll find it for you in the book and show it to you. And what it pretty much does is it takes you through, you know, all the different pieces that you should have in your wardrobe without it being fashion speak. And what I mean by fashion speak is that, you know, we start talking about contrast and triad, and we do all of those things to others, and they don't understand that language. That's not their language. So this is kind of your beginner's guide. So I did a triangle because I figured it would be something that everybody could kind of relate to. And so I'll just read a little bit about, you know, what it is, if that's okay, since it's a
Yeah.
book. Okay. It says,
Mm.
when embarking on the excuse me, when embarking on the luxury modular fashion journey, it's important to have a structured approach that helps you curate a versatile and functional modular wardrobe. To achieve this, think of your wardrobe as a triangle, with each tier representing a crucial aspect of your clothing collection labeled A, B, or C. So A is the absolutes. This is the foundation of your style. B are your core investment pieces. These are your building blocks. And C are your cool statement pieces. These are the ones that express your personal style. So what I did was I just broke it down. So there are things that are your absolutes that you absolutely have to have in your wardrobe. You know, your socks, your underwear, you know, undershirts, you know, your even your pants, even pants or leggings. And what I think is that because those things are not seen most of the time, your personality comes out in those pieces. So are you, a nude girl? Do you have these like zany cat types that you absolutely like? I think it's important to pay close attention to that, because what you reach for in that space will build the other parts of your wardrobe. So you'll see that absolute and those cool statement pieces, they should connect.
But what's really brilliant with the triangle is it actually also works with, because we have so many apparel entrepreneurs listening to this podcast and watching the YouTube channel. This also applies to how they build their collections. This also applies into having your icon pieces, your core pieces, your base,
Yes.
and then your cash cow products. It's the
Yes.
same thing. It's the same
Yes.
process, the same concept.
Yes.
So again, I love the holistic aspect, how
Mhm.
brands can see this, but also at the end, how customers actually shop and buy and
Mhm.
dress themselves into the products that you create.
Yes, yes. And actually the modular wardrobe is what helped me create that. It's like, I need like what do you absolutely have to cover? And then so what's basic? Okay, so what becomes my, like, you got to have the jacket, but what's basic? Basic things are like
Mm,
your lapel,
mm,
your even your sleeved arms, and then you move into those cool things like your brooches, taking off and putting on a statement lapel or statement arm.
mm.
So yeah, it did, it also came from that concept as well.
It's brilliant. Talk to us
Yeah.
about the pearl.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So, this was such a process. Um, I went into it and it was longer and harder than I thought it should be. And I felt like we were under pressure. I felt like it was underwater a lot of times too. And I thought, what speaks to the beauty that's coming out of what we're doing? And no less the pearl. The pearl speaks to the beauty and the pressure that we've been under, because that's how a pearl is made. It's not made from, it's made from a problem, really. You know, so, we feel like modularity, is a solution to the problem of sustainability. And that pearl just being under the type of pressure that our environment's under, we've made something beautiful. And so we made this pearl. And once we had it on the back of the book, we always knew we wanted to live in the digital. Like that is, the future is coming, and I'm excited that we're here to be a part of it and to witness it. So I thought, what can happen that moves us future facing? We know we wanted NFTs for circularity, so people know where their pieces are and know if it's genuine, if it's authentic. We thought, why not produce an NFT of original art and let it live in the metaverse? Because we know we live in the fourth dimension. And we did that, and we're so proud. The pearl actually this is the top of our logo, and it lives in the metaverse. So if you actually buy the book, then you go here, and this is your QR code to own a piece of artwork. There's only 500 pieces. So love
It's
the pearl.
brilliant. Will you connect your book, or what's your vision for connecting your brand physical products with the book and with the pearl? Is there a vision for that? Or what's your plan on actually making them interconnected?
Yes. So I love that you asked that question, because life is modular, right? We don't live in a space where, everything's interconnected now. We're interconnected across the world. Everything's so interconnected that, I see the book as art, and that's why I use actually this piece with it. Yeah, I mean, that's why we did this, and that's why we did the pearl, because we figure we want to make a piece of art. And with the clothing, we actually used our brand logo and our color scheme to actually provide connectivity, with the book. And it'll be a piece, it'll be an accessory piece. We do brooches, we do books, we want to do modular sunglasses. So this is one of the many things that we anticipate doing. And we do want the volume 1, 2, and 3, of this particular book.
It sounds like it's needed, especially where we're moving ahead now, also with the legislation, also with the
Yeah.
digital product passport. I'm thinking about your QR code. Potentially,
Yes.
that's a connection also with the products that you're making, your garments. So It's a genius move, so to say. You
Thank
mentioned
you.
I wanna go to, because we've had a conversation for a while now, but I'd like to go back to talking a bit more about yourself and entrepreneurship. And you mentioned a
Mhm.
mentor. Like, where are you going now to get motivation, to get inspiration? What's your go-to? Is it a person? Is it a place, a tool?
Mhm.
Where do you gather the oomph that you need to push through?
Well, for me, it's a creator God because I feel like we always go back to the source. So for me, I meditate, and when I'm feeling, if I'm in a slump, if I feel creatively burnt out, I always feel like there's something about meditating and going to the God who created things. So I just go back to my creator and I plug in, and once I plug in, I'm recharged. It's like a battery. But yeah, so I always go back and I recharge with my creator because I think what I'm doing, I don't think of it as just my job. I think of it as my passion, the purpose, because I think there are certain things that you do because you're put here to do them, and I'm put here to do this, and hopefully I'll do it for a long time, but I feel like that's where I go. I mean, it's as
And
simple as
talking about
that.
yeah, sorry. Talking
Mhm.
about purpose, how do you envision the book you're creating? You're talking about new volumes. How do you envision that shaping the future of fashion from now?
You know, I, I, I'm, I'm blessed to be in this moment because I feel like nothing has changed. We're frustrated. We're frustrated with ESG. We're frustrated with sustainability. We're frustrated with the technology that's surrounding the fabrics. We're frustrated with the lack of longevity in the new fibers. So I think, and Malcolm Gladwell says it all the time. It's not about whether or not you're talented, whether or not you're purpose. It's about the right time at the right place. And I believe in history, I'm at the right place at the right time. Nothing special, nothing, and I wish young people would understand that, sometimes it's not just your time and your talents. It's the right time aligned with your talents, if that makes sense.
Timing is everything, and also leaning in. If you get some tailwind, just lean in. Like, you get
Yes.
all the responses from your community. You're like, this is, I'm on the
Hmm.
right track. Let's go. You
Yes.
get people asking you more about it, like your mentor. You're like,
Yes.
okay, let's dig deeper. So
Yes.
also being able to acknowledge the, or get the vibes or whatever, see that the universe is speaking to, whatever you want to see, that this is, that you're on the right track, and this is the potential to grow something incredible here. So just actually doing the work and going with it, because so many people are not leaning in. They're like, oh, this, I had my education, I want to do this, basically. It's amazing that you can just lean into where you're feeling that you have some interest, and just getting the sense that this is something to that you want to proceed with. And the last, we're getting at the end of the conversation, but what is, if you were going to go back and give yourself a tip, or if you want to have one tip for the listeners, other entrepreneurs, what would be one, two, or three tips that you feel are really important and that have been important for you? What would you say?
So I'm going to be redundant. I think it's important to always know where to plug in. Like, whatever your plug-in is, plug in. And remember that. Go back to your source, get recharged, and come back. And here's the other thing. When you're riding a wave, understand that when that wave comes down, that's not a crash. That's a resting point. And if you rest when that wave is down and low, then what happens is that you actually have the strength to ride another higher wave. And people are
Ah.
yes, people get so busy when the wave is down, they don't rest. They start paddling and do, and so when the other wave comes, they burn themselves out.
I
So
love that metaphor.
So yes, that's my thing. The wave is here. Like people are calling me for podcasts, for speech, and that's great. I love it. I think it's amazing. It's getting the word out there. But when it's time, when that wave crashes, I anticipate resting and regaining strength for the next wave that's coming, because it's coming.
For sure. If
Yeah.
you're on the direction and you have a mission, of course, and there are going to be many waves to ride, right?
Yes.
Also, as an entrepreneur, I mean, you have so many things going on, and you have your brand, and you've written your book. How do you balance what to focus on? And do you have any tip for other entrepreneurs? How do you know when you start out your week? This week, I'm going to work on this, or do you have a structure for choosing what to prioritize?
I suck at that. So
You just do everything at once.
you said be candid, be truthful. I'm really not good at that. That is something I struggle with daily. I have no great advice for you on that. I wish the next person has good advice for me on that. So,
Yeah, we're going to find someone that can bring us an answer to this.
but I get it all done. What I do, one of the things I do is that I put hours on myself. Like, I don't care
Mm.
what's going on. I keep a Sabbath. On Sunday, I do no work whatsoever, no matter what. I don't care what's going on. It can burn down. I'm going to relax. And then I have hours that I work with. And I'm pretty little loose with it during the week. But for the most
Mhm.
part, I just try and get it all in. Because as you know, I was talking to my husband last night. I have a team, so I'm blessed in that respect. But I do feel like the buck rests with me, and I just have not found a way to compartmentalize it all. For lack of better terms. Klaus, thanks for asking that, but I'm sorry, that's not me. I'm not your girl on that one.
Also, I'm sure because you're so busy and you have your fashion brand, you also have the book, you have so many things going on. What's your go-to tool? What's one of the tools, like if it's a tech tool or whatever tool that you cannot live without, that you would want to recommend to our listeners?
I'm a Google Docs junkie.
All right.
Like everything Google, like the Google Calendar, the Google Docs. I mean, I'm a commercial for Google because remember, I have people that work with me that live in Vietnam, Dubai, and Jaipur.
Yeah.
So, we live and interact constantly
Yeah.
on Google. So really Google tools are amazing for me.
And now looking back, also when you started your journey for your brand, what are the things that you would have done differently? What you would really recommend another entrepreneur of thinking about when they start their brand?
Get a really good CFO, because there are a lot of great ideas that are born and they die in a basement. And I think the ability to be able to manage money is very important in this space. And I also believe that as you get somebody who's tightening up your purse strings, it also leads to more creativity. So
Mm.
never think that, oh my gosh, I would do this if I had the money. Imagine how much more creative you can be because you
Yeah.
don't have the money to do it.
Yeah. That's a really good point. It's something actually we always recommend founders
Mm-hmm.
to partner up with someone that's your opposite. Like for us, we always joke that Klaus is the left side of the brain, I'm the right side of the brain,
Yes.
because you cannot be good at all the things.
No.
And you cannot both be super creative and have the vision and then also be super into the numbers and be super nerdy about that. It just
Right.
doesn't work because it's completely different poles. You can't be, it. So I think it's a very, very good point you're making. Pamela, what is the legacy you want to leave?
I'm not a legacy girl. Um, I don't, and I have kids, so I get it. I mean, I'm gonna leave them some money, but I'm not a legacy girl, and what I mean by that is I don't care about the legacy that I leave. What I care about is what I do when I'm here right now in terms of purpose. And if I get us this far and then I perish and you don't even remember who made luxury modular fashion, then the thing about doing something new, you either go into it with no ego or a lot of ego. And I made a choice to go into it with no ego, you know, understanding that I'm a small business, I could be usurped by Gucci tomorrow, but I I will know what I do.
Mm,
Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
that's been a choice in terms of how I have to move in my process. So I'm just not attached to what I want legacy to look like, because we all have one, but I'm not attached to it.
I love that. And yeah, it's about doing the right thing. And also, that would almost per default lead to some sort of a legacy because you focusing in so much to having this passion and
Right.
educating consumers, education brands, other entrepreneurs in modular fashion and the upsides of it. But almost per definition is going to, because you're paving a new path right there.
and
Yes.
and where can people get a hold of your book, and how can they find your brand?
You can go to Amazon to purchase the book. You can find me on LinkedIn at Pamela Morris James. You can also find me on my new Instagram that I'm excited about. It's Paloma St. James. And follow me there just to see what's new and what's exciting. And that's it.
Yes, we will
Perfect.
put everything
Perfect.
in the show notes for
Yeah.
people to find you and get your book and have a
Yeah.
conversation about modular fashion. This has been such an interesting, educating conversation. So thank you so much,
Thank
Pamela.
you.
It's been incredible. And yeah, we want to see more of modular fashion. So you're paving a phenomenal path. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.